Today on Truth Is, the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 19 through 28. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 19 through 28. Now John, what he's going to do here, he's going to try to take the emphasis off himself and put it where it belongs, on Jesus Christ. And there's a lot for us to learn in this bit of scripture we're going to cover today, that we want to take the emphasis off ourselves, because the world does not revolve around us. It revolves around Christ as Christians. And we want to take the emphasis off ourselves and put it on Christ in our life. Because this world tells us what? In society, it's all about us. It's all about me, me, me. That's what society tells us. But as Christians, that's not true. We were created for Christ, not for ourselves. So there's a lot we can learn as we go through this bit of scripture we're covering today in the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John chapter 1 verse 19 says this, "And this is the testimony of John, when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, 'Who are you?' He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, 'I am not the Christ.'" So a lot of people thought this might be the Messiah, because John was very bold in his preaching, and he wasn't afraid to call sin out. Very profound, he just loved to preach, and he did a good job of it, and he was very different, and that made them think, maybe this is the Messiah. We need to find out who this is. And so they send people to find out, and he says, "I am not the Christ. I am not." He's taking the emphasis off of himself and putting it toward Jesus. That's what he's going to do. Then it goes on in verse 21 that says, "And they ask him, 'What then? Are you Elijah?' He said, 'I am not.' 'Are you the prophet?' And he answered, 'No.'" But there was a sense in which John the Baptist was Elijah-like, and Jesus talks about it in Matthew 17:10. And the disciples ask him, they're asking Jesus, "Then why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come?" He answered, "Elijah does come, and he will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man will certainly suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them of John the Baptist. So he was Elijah-like. Now verse 22 says, "So they said to him, 'Who are you?'" They're still trying to figure out who he is. "Who are you? We need to give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourselves?" The Pharisees sent these people that represented them to him to find out who he was, because they were concerned, because if they stir up the Romans, see, Romans had occupied the Jews, and they ruled, but they let the Pharisees kind of have their own little rule over their own world. But if they got things stirred up, if John the Baptist was going to stir things up, it might cause the Pharisees problems, and they would lose their position. So they were really concerned. Who is this guy that's making this ruckus? We want to know who he is. So they're trying to find out. Verse 23 says this, he said, "I am a voice of one crying out in the wilderness, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as the prophet Isaiah said." He says, I'm the voice crying out. This is the Messiah. That's John's whole purpose, to come to announce the coming of the Messiah. This is who I am. I am a voice. I am a voice. Isaiah 40 verse 3 says, "A voice cries in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God." And we have to make a highway in our lives for God in our lives. If we're Christians, we have to make a way for the Lord. He is the center of our universe now. He's the center of our world. We make a way for him. If you happen to be watching this and you don't have a relationship with Christ, you need to make a highway for the Lord in your life. You need to make a way for him. And that was John's purpose, was to announce that, hey, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and you need to find a way for Christ in your life. You need to find a place for Christ in your life. Now, verse 24 goes on to say, Now they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, "Then why are you baptizing, if you are neither the Christ, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water, but among you stands one you do not know, even he who comes after me, the strap of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie." These things took place in Bethany across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. He says, look, I baptize with water, but there's one among you that you don't recognize, who is God himself, is what he's saying. And he's saying, I'm unworthy to even untie his sandals. And that was the lowest thing a slave could do, was wash someone's feet or untie someone's sandals. That's the lowest thing. And John says, I'm not even worthy to do that. I'm not even worthy to do that. And there's one among us that is God. And we see the humbleness in John here. And we see a great example for you and I. We need to be humble in the fact that we need to make more of Christ and less of ourselves. As Christians, the world does not revolve around us anymore. Maybe before we came to know Christ, our world did revolve around us, but that's not how we are to live as Christians. It's not how we were created to be either. We were created by Him, for Him. So we need to learn to take the emphasis off ourselves and put it where it belongs, in Jesus Christ. That's what John is doing. It's a good example for you and I to do the same thing. Put the emphasis on Christ. Well, that's all the time we have today. Until next time, blessings.